This doggone thing was in camera mode, so sorry you were getting a nice picture of my inbox. Good morning, one and all, to the Ivory Tower. It's wonderful to be back. I haven't done a Go Live for a lot of reasons. The main reason being, good morning, Michael. Good morning, Katrina. Good morning, Tiche. Good morning, Grayin. Good morning, Ali. I'm waving. I can't press all these waves. It's crazy. Here's the thing. I've been off doing Go Lives and pretty much, except in the last 10 days, off from doing any kind of posting of philosophical or astrological variety or description, because I'm just trying to wean myself off of this thing that I'm talking through right now. I want to do future posts on the laptop through Zoom so I can show you pictures of charts, I can show you documents, I can show you pictures of various descriptions. Good morning, Wasinta. Sophia, are you there? Have you come on board yet? Hope you have. Anyway, welcome one and all. And today is a special day. It is Pluto stationing to go direct. Oh God, for almost, 6 months. It has been retrograde in Capricorn at around 22 to 20 degrees. It went backwards. So it's stationing today at 20 degrees 38 minutes. And a station, if those of you who aren't too familiar with astrology, a station is like having a camera, a really nice SLR or DSLR camera, and putting it on time exposure so that you get a long exposure to get an image of a certain kind that you want to have a lot of depth of field, you want to have a lot of light captured. So think of it and turn it around. It's like a projector, okay? So it's like this Pluto standing still, or any planetary body standing still, figuratively speaking, in the sky, is like getting a spotlight on things, all right? Very bright, very shiny, very intense. So that's what is happening today and for the next 48 hours roughly. It started at 7:40 a.m. British summer time and goes until 7:40 a.m. on the 4th of October. And then, what can I tell you? You know, we'll have that going direct. We'll have Chiron really is the only thing left over, Chiron and Uranus that are retrograde. Saturn is direct. Finally, Mercury will go retrograde this month, but you know it's happening on Halloween, on the last day of the month. Mercury goes retro, and on a void of course moon. Now, what the heck does that mean? What is Isaac talking about? Void of course moons are like, they're between signs. They're not really. It's not really in one or the other. It's in a limbo. It's in purgatory. Mercury stationing to go retrograde is always an interesting time, and both of these fall on the day that the UK is supposed to leave the European Union. So yeah, good luck with that, Boris. But we're here today to talk about Pluto. And this could scramble our eggs in terms of a nice, easygoing Indian summer or autumn in a lot of ways, because it's been pounding around inside of our subconscious and the collective subconscious more specifically for the last 6 or so months, and now it's coming out to play. Personally, in 1994, I went through the transit of Uranus and Neptune in Capricorn, conjunct each other, very close together, like Saturn and Pluto have been for a little while now, and they will be again. Having that happen in, say, from about September until June the following year, from 1993 and 1994, and I'll tell you, it was anything but sedate. You know, you think earth signs, oh, everything's kind of slow moving and grounded and everything. This was like explosive. So we're heading into one of those explosive times. You expect the unexpected. And so with Pluto turning around and going direct in Capricorn and moving toward a fated conjunction in early January 2020, we get to see what prefaces that. We get to see what unravels between now and the end of the year. in our own personal sphere of activities and our relationships and our relationship with things like specifically political parties, government agencies, banking, finance, economic systems, anything having to do with institutional structures, anything having to do with authority and power. So if you want to know and understand the core meaning of power, or the sense of powerlessness, one has to look at an obsession. One has to look at the archetype of Pluto in the astrological sense. And in every case, when I sit down and talk about astrology, I talk about it from the standpoint of it being a mirror, not a causative factor. It is reflecting causative factors already in motion. So it's a language, an interpretive map, if you will, that gives us a leg up. Good morning, David. Good morning, Virginie. It gives us a leg up as to what's going on in our karmic field, in our collective and individual unconscious patterns. Established well in the past, but now sort of showing up now in our environment. All transits, according to the astrologer Robert Hahn, are the externalization of subconscious processes made visible. So in that spirit, you understand that it's nothing being done to you or to me or to the planet at large in the astrological sense. Good morning, Debbie Brady Hawk. And what we then have to do is take responsibility for finding out, coming into an awareness and discovering and finding out what is it that's really going on? How do we dismantle it? How do we change it? How do we change ourselves? How do we change the systems? Because when we're talking Pluto and Saturn in Capricorn, we're talking systemic problems, systemic issues. It's sort of like, read an article the other day called, The Illusion of Saving the Planet. And basically it's hardcore. I mean, you have to face facts here. You and I recycling properly is important, but it is not the thing that's going to turn around climate change or the decimation and extinction of species. What is going to change that is what's happening systemically within the economic system, within the belief system and the agendas of corporations. And unless you address that and you get in front of the people who run these organizations or who fund them, and you know where they live and you know what they're, where they are and where they live, and do something to not demonstrate, but to illustrate, symbolically and otherwise, that what is going on in terms of business as usual is no longer not only non-sustainable, but it is no longer morally defensible. So this is, when we get into the era of Libra, Sun in Libra, we're talking justice. What is justice? Good morning, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. This is an important day, okay? So the importance here is what happens next. And what happens next is that during the Sun in Libra phase, we will be looking at and trying to come to grips with what justice has to be done. What is going to be necessary to balance ourselves with our immediate environment? What are we going to do to balance ourselves in our home and our relationships and our workplace and everything else? What has to be done to rebalance business and profit motive? What has to be done to rebalance the association of endless eternal progress with a planet that has finite resources and an ecosystem barely functioning right now? Okay, these are hard truths, and Pluto is going to rub it in everybody's noses and say, like Old Testament prophets, I'm going to be old, I'm going to be annoying, and I'm not going to go away. All right, I'm going to keep sending the message. I'm going to keep speaking out against the king, against the queen, against the powers that be, because that is what is required to achieve justice. All right. So we will see more issues around what's going on with Trump and his unraveling, the Tory party unraveling here in Britain and in other places. The one place where the power fulcrum seems to be right now, and everybody is too afraid to address the elephant in the room, is China. and Hong Kong specifically. So when we talk about things like Pluto, we're talking about world events. We're talking about major things. Same with Uranus. Saturn's a little bit more closer to home as it is in the old school of astrology. Saturn's more like, our personal judge, our personal, manager standing there with the clipboard saying, well, have you done this? Have you done that? Well, you almost did that good enough. That's definitely Saturn in Capricorn, which is the ruler of that sign. And this idea of, is there enough? Are we good enough? Are we, perfect enough? Are we going to have enough? That's more of the Pluto and Capricorn thing, making do with less. Austerity, the whole austerity programs that came in the wake of the 2008 crash are directly related to Pluto and Capricorn. Making do with less, austerity. But that period is over when Pluto enters Aquarius. And that's going to be not too many years hence from now, but we still have a gauntlet to go through. We still have a Rubicon to cross, as it were. And that is next January 12th, April 5th, and December 21st, 2020, when we get 3 major hits of Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, all right, and all in the same sign of Capricorn. And so the structural flaws, the structural power grabbing, the structural obsessions, the structural corruption that is caused by too much power concentrated, too much wealth concentrated in a very small number of hands is going to become incredibly visible, and it's going to make a lot of people very angry. Okay. There was a guy named Gerald Celente back in the early 2000s. He still runs a website and a investor or business magazine called Trends Journal. And Gerald Celente said a long time ago, when people lose everything and they have nothing left to lose, they lose it. All right. John F. Kennedy said, if revolution cannot be achieved by peaceful means, then nonviolent revolution will be inevitable. So we have to understand that, or violent revolution, excuse me. If nonviolent revolution is impossible, then violent revolution is inevitable. What we have to understand is that conflict is to be avoided at all cost. Good morning, Magda. Good morning, Suzanne. Thank you all for tuning in. This is Pluto Day, and I don't mean the dog from the Disney cartoons. The Plutons are coming. Okay, so I've been picking different archetypes, like a cat in a Darth Vader helmet, and Marvin the Martian from the old Warner Brothers cartoons. Symbols of the Roman god Pluto. There we go. In Greek, it's Hades, the lord of the underworld, and Pluto is the lord of death. Okay, so when I see the Pluto and Capricorn era unfolding 2007, 2008, it's the death of something. Saturn in Capricorn is the trying to preserve the very thing Pluto is trying to unravel. When you get these two archetypes together, it's like, no, we're going to hold on to our power and make it look like we're being more equitable and fair. But actually, the uptake of wealth to the top 1/2 of 1% of 1% is still going to continue. We're going to still keep accelerating fossil fuel burning. We're going to still keep accelerating the hydrocarbon emissions. We're still going to be accelerating species extinction, but we're going to at least look good doing it. We're going to have a good PR engine in place. And Pluto is going to come along and wreck those plans. Okay. So what does this mean for us personally? Well, I would say, the best investment you can make is probably, if you have any green space, start thinking about a garden for next spring and getting some heirloom seeds, some organic seeds in stock. If you live in a city, grow herbs in a flower box, or have an indoor garden or a rooftop garden, because, the fly in the ointment here, or the secret ingredient, is Uranus and Taurus, and that goes direct on the day of the first Saturn-Pluto conjunction in some time, on January 12th at 22 degrees of Capricorn of 2020. 2020, isn't that an interesting little, thing? It's like, we always say hindsight is 2020. We see clearly in the past where the errors were made, where the mistakes happened, and we try to course correct. That's going to be the case with the year 2020. We're going to look back and say, oh, we had this opportunity, we had that opportunity, we could have done this, we could have done that, we didn't do this, we didn't do that. So 2020, 2021 are going to be the times to correct course, or not. A technocracy, totalitarian capitalism that's fueled by technocratic means, and will give us a very dark beginning to the digital information age. And China is leading the way in that, in case you haven't been paying attention. Social credit. Well, what does that mean? Not only that, they have been harvesting organs of minority groups of people. They have been brandishing their weaponry on their, yesterday, oddly enough, just right before Pluto goes turnaround time, they have their 70th anniversary of the People's Republic of China and the founding of it by Mao Zedong. And what do they celebrate? They celebrate their new hardware, their new military might. They actually have goose-stepping soldiers. Gee, that's a familiar sight to anybody who remembers their history lessons or lived through the 1930s and 40s. And things will get crazier, and which means for a strategy for you personally, it means you got to get sane, you got to get clear, you got to get grounded, and you got to get, in a way, understanding that not everything in the culture is your friend, to quote Terence McKenna, and get clear about how to manage that. So I put an image up announcing 30 minutes to go on this Go Live of a young person holding their cell phone, leaned down with a Pokemon on his neck. We have to understand what the real heaven is and what the false heavens are that are being offered by 5G, Internet of Things, smart cities, all this stuff. It's a ruse. To be pure and simple, it's a bloody ruse. It's a bag of tricks. And that came back very poignantly for me last night on the eve of Pluto turning stationary direct, because I had very strong, organic, visceral memories come up of what it was like in the 1950s growing up in Allentown, Pennsylvania, what it was like living on a farm there, what it was like living even in the city there. And I tell you, there's something we have lost. There is something that we have lost, and we don't know we're missing it because we have grown up. Most of you probably out there have grown up, except for Michael Luton, have grown up through an age in which you didn't know what occurred before. You didn't live through it. You have no reference point. That's not a criticism. That's just the way it is. And for those of you who are millennials who were born around the advent of, the Uranus and Aquarius era and the smartphone appearing and all that, and iPhone actually, and the internet going bonkers all of a sudden in the mid-1990s, know what I mean. You didn't grow up with anything else. Well, my generation didn't grow up with anything that didn't have radio in it and television. All right? So let's go back 150 years. What was life like then? What would it feel like to be on planet Earth at that time? Just use your imagination, or read an Emily Bronte novel or something like that, and find out where it is we've come from. Because if we don't learn the mistakes of the past, we will not avoid them in the future, especially since we have such a compressed timeline to course correct. Very, very compressed. So I will post a copy of the chart with some annotations today. The big news is the Pluto turnaround. There isn't much else really going on of significance, except that Pluto does aspect Neptune, does square Venus today. Venus squared yesterday, actually. And it's a semi-sextile. It's only a 30-degree arc between Jupiter and Pluto, so it's not about anything kind of fireworks. Don't expect anything like that for the next few days. Things will start heating up toward the next full moon on October 13th, which is in Aries Libra, full moon in Aries. Then we could see some real interesting things going on in the U.S. Congress and also over here in the UK and in China and Hong Kong. I don't think it's going to be a very quiet time between now and then. It will be then quiet sort of mid-month. This is, my best guess. I'll always be surprised. But good morning, Sophia. Good morning. Oh, I said hello, Mandy. Hello. Those of you who are joining late, you can always watch the replay. Thank you very much. Those of you who are going through any kind of personal Pluto stuff, you're listening on the down low, okay. don't let anybody at work find out. When you've got time to reflect, nice to hear you and see you there too. Thank you, Sophia. It's really, really kind of a strategy, a new strategy that has to be inspired from the divine within yourself, and then we have to encourage in each other, praise each other for the things that we can do to make changes in our own life, but also the changes that will actually have an effect in the world for the better. So if I have to say, if there is any singular wisdom to go to, anything that relates to, for lack of another label, the pagan philosophy, or the deep ecology philosophy, or the Gnostic philosophy, any of those systems of philosophy that relate to nature and humanity in organic terms, there's your go-to, all right? Anything that's promoting transcendence or ascendance outside the realm of physicality, into the digital realm, into the astral realm, go, thank you very much, but no thanks. Expansion of consciousness that doesn't include the possibility of what lies outside the boundary of our psychic quarantine and what lies inside our physical bodies is really not a science worth pursuing, a spiritual science, if you will. Okay, there are a lot of things going on in the quantum as well. There are a lot of things going on in our local space in the center of the galaxy. It lit up a few weeks ago for no reason. All of a sudden it got very bright. Nobody knows why, all right? All of a sudden there's green flashes on the surface of Venus this morning. That's usually something that only happens with the sun, the green flash. Anybody here not see Pirates of the Caribbean and the green flash that happens when the sun goes down? I've seen it in Hawaii. Sunset in Hawaii, and it's pretty spectacular. This green flash that shoots straight up from the horizon at the moment this edge of the sun goes below it. So when you've got those kind of signals out there in the airwaves, be very choosy about what you tune into. Be very, very critical and discerning, because discernment is going to be the thing that gets us all through what is going to be unraveling over the next 7-8 years, and especially over the next 7-8 months. I don't want to sound like a messenger of doom, an Old Testament prophet, but we have could have a spectacular shift in economic fortunes with the Saturn-Pluto conjunction on January 12th. I won't say anything more than that. And it doesn't have to impact you negatively or any of your friends or family, all right? If you want to know more about that, please get in touch with me. If you need help navigating what's going on right now with Pluto turning around, I'm sure there's going to be some fallout maybe in your workplace, your personal relationships. But this month with Sun in Libra, Pluto turning around and moving forward direct, it will be a time to seed the things, the intentions that are coming from the organic presence within you, i.e. God, Goddess, creator of all that is, and that will sustain you. That will be your sustenance. It will not come from your next client. It will not come from the government. It will come from what you can get in touch with within and manifest without. Okay? So that goes for everybody. That goes for everybody. And those who are struggling will require your compassion and your assistance. And that's as it should be, because as I love to say, and I learned this from Neil Donald Walsh, there is only one of us in the room, okay? Okay, comment from one of the viewers here. Move to a property where we have organic gardens, fruit, and soon bees. Oh, you're going to start an apiary. Excellent. Friends of mine in Ireland are doing the same thing. They're moving into their new house this month, and there are major gardens going on with polytunnels, and they're taking a beekeeping course right now. So this return to the land is not some kind of faddy thing. Please don't see it as a fad. It's actually the trend toward a more decentralized and local-based culture and economy and governance. That I think will be the way that we move forward into the next golden age, if you will. Okay, the technology will become our servants again, not our masters, because right now, with the way technology is designed, the algorithms, the software, and the hardware, the medium is also somewhat to blame here. the way it affects our cerebral cortex, the way it affects our consciousness, our biology, is not okay. And we need to address these things and say, no, wait a minute here. Before you roll out all this fancy stuff, why don't we just take a deep breath, step back, and have a good long look. Let's see what the medical implications are. And no, you're not going to cut down all the trees in my block so you can have 5G antenna arrays every 200 yards. You know, we can't afford to do that. Those are our carbon sinks, trees, all right? You know, to make way for the Internet of Things, I don't think that is compatible. And here's the other factor. The energy usage will triple with this new tech, 5G and 6G. The energy use will triple or quadruple. How does that correspond? How does that work with you know, what's going on in terms of the ecology? With our own human health, yeah, the radiation signatures are different and much more pronounced with pulsed array, millimeter wave technology. You know, all this stuff is confusing, and I understand that, and it can be overwhelming. Good morning, Kasha. Hello. Saw your brother today. Very busy there at the station. What is important to recognize is that you and I are not powerless. Don't let Pluto's Capricorn message fool you. But empowerment isn't what is being sold to you. That is not true empowerment through coaching programs or through the internet. A real coaching program, you know, real coaching would be to say the power is within you, yes, but be wary of trying to become so empowered that you lose your humanity and your compassion and your empathy. That is the danger of power, and that is the danger of power of Pluto and Capricorn. That is the danger of power corrupting absolutely. So to be empowered is actually, as Brene Brown would love to say, being incredibly vulnerable to what's going on with others and being completely sensitive. So, you know, let's get our definition of empowerment turned around a bit. You know, otherwise we'll become like the Nazgul in Lord of the Rings, who covet power above all else, which is what mankind's biggest challenge, I think, has been since 8,000 years ago. The idea of power. Lack of or having too much of it. There you go. There's a Pluto thing if there ever was one, okay? So I will finish by saying this is a great opportunity this month to set things in motion the way that you feel you are in alignment with, that you are going to wish and choose and intend and manifest to be in your life for the betterment of yourself, those close to you, and to the planet at large in harmony. And that not everything that you ask for is necessarily good for you. If it would be good for you, it will show up. If it isn't good for you, you don't want it to show up, period. End of story. So be very clear about what you want and very clear about what it is you choose not to experience or have in your life. And it will be so. This isn't new age, muddled, fluffy head thinking. This is just simple intention, and then surrender whatever it is that you are intending, so that you are not attached to the power of it or thinking that somehow you are the doer of it all. It is that which lives and breathes and moves throughout your being that is the doer, not you. Don't let the ego run away with the self and get over spiritualized here. So the astrological context is a month of power, a month of intensity, especially when the sun moves into Scorpio around the 22nd of October. And it's going to be intense right at the tail end of the month, right over Samhain, if I pronounced that incorrectly, I'm sorry, over Halloween, the supposedly Brexit exit. I don't know. I really don't think it's going to happen, kids. You know, anybody who's listening that's in Britain or Ireland, Brexit is broken, okay? It's broken. Hi, Diane. Sorry you're tuning in late. I'm about to sign off. I've been gabbing for too long. It's almost 30 minutes. So watch the replay if you haven't seen the whole thing. If you're needing a astrological tune-up, I'm doing transit sessions right now for anybody who needs one. And that is a bit of astral consulting and counseling that goes with that. So please PM me or email me at isaac@isaacgeorge.com, and we can get it all set up for you. And I also do long-term mentoring for those who are needing a little bit more encouragement and in-depth investigation to clear things that are in the way, bring understanding where there's confusion. So very happy to be back and to broadcast. The next broadcast, I'm not sure exactly when it's going to be, if it's going to be this week or next, but I'm going to try to do it through Zoom so I can, share screens and show all kinds of cool stuff, make it more multimedia fun, and not be on my smartphone doing it. And so with that, I will say much love to you all. Thank you for tuning in. Share this if you feel to, and have as good a rest of the week and weekend as you possibly can until we come back together again. May blessings be on your journey. Take care.